have started it.
You
Oh.
have?
Yeah, just now.
Just now. Welcome, everybody.
But they can't hear you because I just have a logo with no audio.
There you go. So,
Oh, that's a problem. Oh, clearly they can hear
But I don't have picture.
that's why you have two tech guys working together.
Did you hear me? I don't have picture.
you. Yeah, I heard you.
Okay, so anybody we need to, Barbie, turn it down. Do we have anybody that we need to pray for?
Sounds like the two tech guys.
You think?
Okay. All right, since we waited out the rainstorm and the sun's starting to shine, we're going to start with the word of prayer, and I'm going to let Barbie open us with the word of prayer so they all
Am
know
I
you're
supposed
here.
to talk in church?
Yes, you are. We're going to let you start out talking in church
Okay.
tonight.
All right. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for the rain that you've blessed us with, and thank you for the sunshine now. Watch over us, Lord, as we get into this Bible study tonight. Lord, help us to understand what it is that you are trying to let us know through Mark. Lord, be with all those that are on our list that are sick. Be with all those that couldn't be here, Lord. Thank you for all the wonderful blessings that you pour out upon this church. Protect us and keep us safe. And Lord, just bring us all back next week with all of the festivities with Easter. And Lord, I just ask for your blessings to be poured out upon all of that. Thank you for all you do for us. In Jesus' name we pray.
All right. Amen. So tonight we're going to be in 1 Timothy chapter 3. We're going to read verses 1 through 7. And we're going to talk about bishop for a minute. And we'll see what happens. It starts out, it says, "This is a true saying. If a man desires the office of a bishop, he desires a good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, and of good behavior, given to hospitality and apt to teach, not given to wine, no striker, not greedy, a filthy liquor, if I say it right, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous, one that ruleth well in his house, in his own house, having his children in subjugation in all gravity. Man. All right, Stike, take a deep breath. For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of God? Not a novice, least being lifted up with of the devil. I did not want to spend the whole night on the first verse.
For a change.
I just did, because everybody that I looked up, all of the people that I started with on this, just reading the commentaries and talking about how this works out for them, the first verse is like they wear it out, okay? And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to talk about, and that's my granddaughter, I wanted to talk about the reason that this list is here, okay? The reason that this list is important. So, and I don't want to spend and what he's talking about, and see if we can apply the rest of the verses tonight, what we're going to talk about together. So this little video, I'm going to start it from the beginning, and hang on, we'll get there. Can you say it on the camera, Alan, here in a second when I get there?
Maybe when I get a camera set up.
There it goes. Awesome. And the title of the video is "Strange Things Are Happening in Mega Churches." So we'll play it from here.
What is everything about?
There are more
God.
Share our hope with other people. What we have to offer people is exactly what everyone is looking for.
Why are mega churches so successful? Why are so many of them lacking in solid
First time.
to achieve success in numbers? Mega churches often emphasize entertainment.
I'm praying about whether to follow through on this illustration. And I hear the Lord say, yes!
Keeping people happy.
I am blessed, prosperous.
And avoid teaching the uncomfortable or controversial parts of the Bible.
Because we try to be like Jesus. Very rarely did Jesus ever talk about morality or social issues.
They focus on
It's coming.
Gotta love ads.
that creates an environment where people can feel spiritual without ever really committing themselves to the Bible's commands.
I mean, if the beat is right and the band is hot, I can sing all kind of lies and feel like I've met with God.
According to Voddie Baucham, most churches today have moved away from hymnody and liturgy, which emphasize biblical truth.
I believe there are a number of tools that God gives us. And I think it's interesting that many of these tools we've either redefined or moved away from altogether. These tools that remind us that we are a community that is defined by this pattern of sound words. Things like hymnody and liturgy. Hymnody and liturgy. We've moved away from both hymnody and liturgy. But hymnody and liturgy, it's not just a question of style, and that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about a question of style. I'm talking about a question of content. The idea that when we gather together week to week, we are not here just to entertain one another. We are not here just to get a spiritual jolt or a shot in the arm. We are here to have our minds renewed, as we just heard earlier, and we are here to be rooted and grounded in these things most surely believed among us. And what hymnody does and what liturgy does is it says to us, these are those truths that we need to hear again and again and again. They define us.
The purpose of church is not to entertain, but rather to teach all that the Bible teaches.
And I'm afraid that so often when we gather, what we're saying is it has to be new, it has to be fresh, it has to be entertaining. It has to scratch itching ears.
Some argue that this kind of approach to church results in dead orthodoxy, but nothing could be further from the truth.
And I am not talking here about dead orthodoxy, going through the motions. Amen? Far from it. This is not about style, it's about substance.
Most megachurches lack a written confession, which clearly states exactly what the church believes.
I've said it before, I'll say it again, confessionalism. Our confessions remind us of what it is that we believe.
Instead, these megachurches have unwritten confessions, or very short statements of faith that essentially depend upon the personal beliefs of whoever is leading the church at the time.
So it's not a sin in your church to have an abortion?
That's the kind of conversation we would have, finding out your story, where you're from, what
Work
you
through
believe.
it, like talk
Yeah,
about
I
things.
mean, God's the judge. People have to live to their own convictions, and I think if I have to tell you,
And when one leader leaves or steps down, the next leader who steps up might have significantly different beliefs than the previous leader.
And there is not this divide, by the way, in Christianity between churches and ministries who have confessions and churches and ministries who don't. As one writer has put it, the difference is between churches and ministries who have written confessions that are available to be evaluated by all, and those who have unwritten confessions that change from time to time. But we're all confessional. We're all confessional. It's just, is the confession written? Is it there to be evaluated? Is it there for all of us to see so that there can be accountability? Or is the confession just in the mind of the minister so that if he leaves and goes somewhere or dies, now the next minister brings the confession that's in his mind, and you have division in the church when he says something one day that goes against the confession of the last guy that wasn't written, by the way, so he didn't know it. And now there's a war in the church between the unwritten confession of the last guy and the unwritten confession of the new guy, and nobody knows where the starting point is.
Without a written confession or an
The best way to burn fat and get in shape. It's not keto, paleo, fasting, or vegan.
Hello,
It's not super intense work.
I
love you too.
on biblical teaching, megachurches end up focusing on worldly metrics of success, such as numbers, and they make it their goal to increase numbers rather than to faithfully teach all that the Bible teaches.
So what does the ministry mean if you don't have a theology? What does the ministry mean if you don't have a confessional framework? What are you being called to? What are you being called to do if you don't have this theological framework? If we no longer have hymnody, we no longer have liturgy, we gather together to entertain people, we gather together in order to make sure that the crowd continues to grow and that people remain happy. Now we have the next generation growing up in the church, watching us do what we do. What is everything about? Everything is about entertainment. Everything is about numbers. What is the ministry? Well, this is about continuing this process of entertaining and attracting more and more people.
This oftentimes even results in these churches teaching things that are egregiously unbiblical.
and the process of discipleship is not God changing you into something else. It's Him revealing who you've been all along.
However, since these teachings align with ideas that are popular in the world and culture, millions will flock to these churches, pastors, and teachings, because these kinds of churches make people feel good about themselves and enable them to ignore the problem of sin, judgment, and hell.
And you hear people say, you don't preach enough about sin. You don't preach enough about repentance. But you know, I actually think what they're saying is you don't beat people up enough. You don't have to remind people they're sinners. They know. You don't have to remind people they fall short not only of God, but of who they would want to be themselves. You don't have to beat people up.
This is how megachurches are leading the millions who attend them straight to hell.
So let you think about that. Zach's pointing out how that went around and around. the
Oh no,
screen.
Macy was fascinated with the little blue line that kept going around and around and around.
So, how important it is that the person in charge of your church is firmly grounded in the knowledge of God. Right? Now, maybe I'm not in on the terms that the guy was using, but I call it doctrine. Is the doctrine written down for our church? Alan, we talked about this the other day, but yeah, it kind of is. Now, we follow some of this, most of this, 99% of that, but the great thing about the Baptist is they are an autonomous church in themselves. So if there's an issue, that's where we refer back to. But the thing that I wanted you to get from that is the last sentence that the guy said. He said, they're leading many, 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 many people straight to hell. That's kind of scary. You know? So why does this matter with what we're talking about tonight? So we're going to talk about bishop. Okay? Now, everybody has an image of what a bishop is. Matter of fact, I popped on the TV this morning, and of course the first thing they show is the Pope doing Palm Sunday in the middle of the Vatican. You know, that's the deal. And that, you know, that's what we think of when we think of that. Hang on. Let me get here. But Paul starts out with a statement in the first verse, the very first line, and he says like this. He says, "This is a true saying." I think in the NIV version, what does yours say, Barb? I think it says this is a true statement.
The very first.
Yeah.
Here is a trustworthy saying.
A trustworthy saying. Okay? So I'm going to ask some real philosophical questions for a split second. Truth. It says, what is true, and how do we know what is true?
Pause for a second.
Pause.
Yeah, you had a question. What
Alright.
is the book that you had?
Oh, I'm sorry. I held it up but didn't say it. This is the Baptist Faith and Message. Okay?
What version?
What version?
The right one. This is the 1964 version.
Sorry, we had a question in the chat. So
No, that's okay, because I forget that I held it up and I knew what it was, but nobody else did. The reason I wanted to point out, Jill, where do we get truth from? Barbie, do you know any kind of truth? Tell me something that's true, that you know 100% is true. I'm picking on her because she's birthday girl yesterday.
What do I know for sure that's true? I could be, go ahead.
Anything, 100% true. Tell me something that you know is true.
The sun will come up tomorrow.
well, will it?
I was going to be real sappy and say that you love me. I know that's true.
This is true. I do
This
love
is
you.
true. Okay.
I've proved that many times.
Well, Annie's song said the sun will come up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sun will come up tomorrow. How do you know that the sun will come up tomorrow? You know, you have a reason.
Because it has every day.
Every day of your life, it's come up,
Every day of
right?
my life it's come up.
Has it ever not come up?
No.
In
I don't
all,
always see it.
in all of human history, has it never failed to show?
Always been
So, by past experience, you know what is a truth, right? Okay? I'm not going to ask about colors because we've had great arguments in our
there.
household
You
about
don't know
colors.
your colors.
She says I don't know my colors. Even though I passed art, okay? So we can state a truth, we can know something's true by experience, right? Okay? Also, we can also find out something is true by somebody else's experience and them telling it to us, right? Okay? I don't have to go to Antarctica to know that it is cold in Antarctica. How do I know it's cold in Antarctica?
Because there's snow there.
People have told us.
Many people have told us, right? It's not just one, it's many, right? Another way to find a falsehood. When the guy's shooting the water gun, what does he say? He says, God told me. that I needed-
Yes.
Told me yes, and I should squirt the water gun at the crowd. It's kind of scary. Alan's chasing me, I can feel it.
I can't even get the live chats showing up whenever people talk. It's not working like it normally does. I think it's the weather.
It might be the weather.
We have audio.
We have weather. I mean, we have audio, we have weather. We got the audio back, so we can take off again.
Jeff says it's true. He can't hear.
It's true, he can't hear. I love it. We've discovered a way to prove something. Okay, it's fact. All right, Bishop.
Jeff speaks truth. Randy said Jeff speaks truth.
I need lots of help tonight.
Randy with the zingers, man, I tell you.
Oh,
he keeps the chat lively.
He'll keep it going. Bishop is a translation of a Greek word called, and I had the guy pronounce it to me 25 times today, Episkopos.
Episkopos.
There you go. This is the term that refers to the office of bishop. Okay? And the other one is presbyteros. There you go. It is the Greek word for elder, and this term refers to the person who holds the office. Now, the reason I'm telling you these two things is because they mean the same thing. Paul is using them interchangeably, okay? I wish the English language was more specific. It would make life so much easier, especially now that everybody texts. You can be very specific in what you're trying to tell them. Of course, then you'd have to know what the words mean. One and the same. Those two words are both refer to the same individual or office, interchangeable in the context of Paul's letter. Okay? Now, the picture of the guy, is the picture of how we think of what a bishop is, right? But in our terms, in the real terms, that's not what bishop means. I'm never going to call Alan a bishop. He's not that.
That's a fact.
We found another fact.
Another truth.
It means overseer or superintendent. Okay? Overseer or superintendent. Now, I'm going to use this, I'm going to talk about this for a second. The reason that overseer is not a popular word that was used in the King James Version is because of the fact of what overseer really means. It means the person that's overseeing the serfs or the slaves. So they did not want that connotation when they talk about the leader of the church. Okay? But I understand when they say overseer. That's not what it is. If you read about the children of Israel that were in Egypt, who was in charge of the children of Israel? It was the overseers that ran the slaves, right? It means something, okay? Now, there's a few other words. Early church, there is presbyter, or the elder, pastor, which equals shepherd. You have the bishop, which is the overseer, and you have the minister, okay? Not reverend. Why would we not use the word reverend? Anybody? Okay. It should only apply to God. Only God is worth reverence. Also, if you look up the root meaning of reverend, it means terror. What should you do? You should fear God, right? No matter what, you should fear God because God is awesome and His power is awesome. And there's no way around fighting that truth. Barbie must be typing something smirky in there.
No, I'm trying to get it back. I finally got it back up.
Hang on. There we go. Paul never acted as a bishop over the church or one who was ruling. He set the pastor as one that serves the church. Okay, when we talk about Jesus or we talk about who heads the church, which is Jesus, one of the symbols that Jesus used when he was teaching all of his disciples was to prove that he served them. What did he do? What was one of the things that he did? Remember the little scene where he washed their feet? Right? And what did Peter tell Jesus? Y'all are not helping a lot. What did Peter tell Jesus when Jesus first came to Peter and said, he says, I'm going to wash your feet. And what did Peter say?
No.
Why? Why did Peter say no?
Or something, or
Huh?
He wasn't worthy or something. I don't know what it was.
I don't know exactly what phrasing,
Yeah.
but it was he didn't want to do that because Jesus who.
If you're gonna wash my feet, wash the rest of me.
Yeah.
Well, he says that after.
Right.
But at first he says no, because I'm never having my master wash my feet. I feel exactly the same way Peter did.
Got my shoes off.
I don't think I could wash someone else's feet, but I don't think I could humble myself to the point to allow them to wash my feet, because my feet stink. Another fact. But who heads the church? And I found this sign, I thought it was pretty interesting, but it has all the different meanings or words associated with Jesus. Emmanuel, truth, love, cornerstone, all those things. And I thought that was a fantastic thing to see. And we're gonna be done in like 3 minutes if we don't have more to talk. Okay, so requirements for being the bishop, the pastor, the elder, right? Okay? So to start with, blameless, husband of only one wife, vigilant, sober, good behavior, given to hospitality, and apt to teach. Some of the negatives that that was thrown in there. Not given to wine, no striker, not greedy of filth or liquor, however you want to say it, and not covetousness. Is there any of these things that stick out to you?
Says I have to be sober.
Does that mean you can't drink?
One wife is easy. One's all I can handle.
But there is a debate.
Sure.
Okay?
There is.
The consensus was that they should only have one wife. Unlike one whole group of people that think you could have more than one wife. But what would be the other issue with what if the wife died? Does it mean that he can't marry again? Does it mean he can't be divorced?
Well, see, that's a little bit of a different subject there versus being a widower versus someone's divorced.
But it doesn't say it. It just says husband of one wife. It didn't go into detail.
Was Paul ever married?
Great question.
That's a.
I know the answer.
He was married in church.
No.
No, I know, yeah.
Never. You know, in our mind, we think of Paul as he's older when all this takes place. Okay, and I think it also explains some of his zealousness when he was attacking the Christians because he had nothing else. But if you're a member, and he was a member of the Sanhedrin, make sure I got it right.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. To be a member of the Sanhedrin, you have to be married.
That is true.
So, by that one little fact, we knew that Paul was married. Now, the wife was never mentioned. We don't know if she died early on, and he never remarried. All of those facts we can talk about. But it could explain something about Paul, right? But it also tells us a lot about when he says of one wife. I think he's talking about you shouldn't be married to more than one woman at a time, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, and there also too in the chat, Brandy put blameless was the one that stuck out to her. I mean,
Ooh.
so what exactly does blameless mean?
Well, we were working back around
Oh,
to that,
okay, so
but
we
it's
jumped ahead a
okay.
little
It's
bit.
all
Jump a little
right.
ahead.
Okay, so blameless. Okay, one of my commentaries that I read, they talked about, he said, look, if you take on this job, you're going to head a group of people, you have to be above reproach when something does go wrong. Because you're going to get blamed because you're the one in charge, right? So no matter what happens, you're going to take the heat for whatever goes on. And the more blameless you are about things, the better, the easier it is to smooth things over, okay?
It allows you to be the guy in the middle. You know that.
It allows you, the guy, to calm things down.
Right. To be the
Yes.
voice of reason.
Voice of reason.
Yeah.
Which again, with the little video we started at the beginning, the guy was talking about how the churches just crumble after the guy leaves or the guy dies, right?
Right.
So were they following God or were they following the man?
Right. That's a thing that happens to a lot of churches. I mean, it's happening even in small towns. I mean, like Davis. You know, we've had several times where churches have crumbled and fallen apart because
It's not just Davis.
No, it's everywhere. I'm just saying,
It's
it happens in
everywhere.
small towns, including Davis.
Yes. So blameless though would mean that need to live above reproach or above doubt, okay?
Can I just interject? That
Go right ahead,
That is
Alan.
way harder than you think.
To be blameless?
Well, sure.
Oh,
I mean, it is probably the thing, is probably why they had to say be sober. Because I don't drive you to drink. I mean, it just, the thoughts that roll in my head constantly are, I have to avoid even the appearance of evil. And I gotta tell you, the pressure of that is from time to time beyond.
Are there times you want to say what you really think, Alan?
Well, I've always been that guy that does that anyway, which, but
you tone it, don't you?
The world, the issue really is that an issue of reputation, and I'm not after any reputation that says, oh, he's some great pastor, he's some great. I don't really care what people think in that regard. What I do care is probably one of the finest compliments I ever received as a pastor was someone in the church that came up to me and said, when we first started coming here, the thing that stuck out to us is that you were genuine. That's what I want to be. And I think genuine goes a long way to be that. If you run into me while I'm on vacation in the Caribbean, you run into the same guy that stands behind the pulpit. I don't want to be any different anywhere, anyway. And what that means is you're going to, from time to time, see a flaw. Because I have some. More than my share.
So I started out today looking for how other people see the church. I was looking for some kind of idea about that. And the representation of your church is the bishop, the pastor, the person that's at the forefront, right?
So this is my challenge. Go out into the community this week, just wherever you are, and ask this question. What's your opinion of Doherty Baptist Church? And listen to the opinions you receive. And if people are honest with you, they will tell you what they think. If they're not, they'll say, oh, it's a fine place. I made the mistake of asking that question one time when I was a church member. I was a deacon, actually. And I asked the question, I said, so what do you think about such and such church? They said, oh, that's the church with the womanizing pastor.
There you go.
And I said, and I'm telling you, it broke my heart because I knew the man and I knew he wasn't. But he had gained that reputation. And it was
good, bad, or indifferent. He had that.
Good, bad, or indifferent. He had gained that reputation. And it was given to him by a woman's husband who attended church there, and he didn't. That's when I learned that you had to avoid even the appearance of evil. Vicki and I made a deal a long time ago. I will not be alone with a woman anywhere except for her. Not in a car, not in a building, not in an office, I won't do it. I don't care if she's 3 years old or 300 years old, I'm not going to do it. Because I can't.
That was the same deal that went right out of my head.
Vicki wanted me to pick up Miss Jean and bring her to church one Sunday. I said, Can't. Sorry. You can go get her, or we can go get her, but I cannot go get her.
But blameless. That's where we're at. Okay? All right.
Well, okay, so vigilant.
Okay, I'm getting...
Okay, sorry. Didn't mean jump the gun. Sorry.
Who's asking for vigilant?
No, it was just me. I was just saying that that's...
So what does the word vigilant mean to you? think we kind of covered it.
You gotta try real hard.
Try
real hard.
Okay? Okay, first off is, if someone seeks the office to lead a church, that it's the hardest job they will ever do. Right?
Some suggest if they seek it, they shouldn't have it.
Can I tell you, I fall in that category some. But again, if God puts you there, then you better do the job.
Right.
You better do the job vigilantly. Okay?
There's not a halfway here when you do that.
Good behavior.
So y'all are really creating a list of why I should resign here. So let's be careful what we do here.
No, Alan, we're not. We're creating a list of why you should stay. So I'm looking here. It says good behavior.
We go back to women.
That was a whole lot easier.
I don't like the spotlight here.
So good behavior. Does that mean that when I get to a ball game, a T-ball game, can I yell and scream at the umpire and get thrown out? Which,
sure you can.
I know somebody that yelled and screamed at an umpire.
Her name's Barbie.
At a T-ball game. And lo and behold, we were on that man's team the next year, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
Because he didn't want Barbie on the other side. Given to hospitality. This means something to us a little bit today, but in Paul's time, you had to be hospitable to people. You had to be. It was the unwritten rule, or it was the written rule. If someone came to your tent, you were to treat them better than you would treat your family. Okay, and so hospitality, given to hospitality, means that if somebody comes to my door and needs my help, that means I'm going to help them. Right?
Yeah, where's the story about the guy that came to the house and knocked on the window and asked for bread? And it's in the middle of the night. You remember the story? Oh, I'll have to find it now. That reminds me of that story. Somebody knocks on my window in the middle of the night and wants a loaf of bread.
Might be a gun.
We're going to have a discussion. I might find some bread and give it to him. Of course, there's no bread in our house, but that was the expectation.
Yes.
If you were in need and you knocked on the door, those people did everything in their power to meet your need.
Yes.
With pleasure.
I've experienced this because we were in Mexico and we worked all week in this little community, and we built this house for this little old lady who's like 90 years old. All she ever had was dirt floors in her house, and we built her a room with a cement floor, and they were so happy that we came and did this that they fed us. Okay? They fed us. And there was not enough food to feed them, much less us. But they fed us. They opened their door to us.
It's also the same time, wasn't that where the pig that was running around that was bacon, we called it bacon?
I think that was another
And then
place.
bacon disappeared.
Wasn't this the one that the lady had the chicken, and
Yes.
the next day
There was no chicken.
And we
Yeah,
had chicken.
and they gave up their eggs.
Yeah.
Because once they killed the chicken, they had no
Yeah.
more eggs.
Yeah. Quite a humbling experience.
It was humbling. But that's what they talk about in hospitality. And the last part is the apt to teach. Our church is so fortunate because we have a pastor that's a great teacher. Okay? And I'm not tooting any horn. The man before this pastor was a great teacher. Okay? And I've been fortunate enough to have both of them around so I can share some of the word. Now, I am not a great teacher.
Luke
I'm
11,
not.
5 through 13. Bread at midnight. Good job, Brandy.
Brandy found it.
Brandy found it.
Bread at midnight. Okay. The negative side, not given to wine. It's pretty simple, right? Does that mean a preacher should not drink?
Means this preacher should not.
I make light of this, but I can't drink because I'm thinking I could be really good at it.
Well, it also goes back to the appearance thing. Like, okay, Alan hit it right on the head. Do you have the appearance of, well, okay, I may only have one glass of wine occasionally, but if someone sees me have that glass of wine, you are immediately labeled as a drunkard, even if you don't get drunk, or there's something suspicious about this man who drinks. That's an appearance of evil.
There might be some guys I know around here that make some of the best moonshine on the planet, so I've heard. And they may have at one time or another offered me some, if such a thing existed.
Right, hypothetically.
Hypothetically. And I got to tell you, everything in me wanted to try it. Just, because it had to be good. It had to be good. And that, by the way, probably the top tier weakness in my thing is that. So I didn't but the crowd that I was with, it would have destroyed not only my witness, but the witness of the church and the witness of every member of the church. And even though there were several members of the church who might have been in that place and might have been, indulging in something that could be called moonshine. Hypothetically.
But Alan, you weren't holding them. You were.
I don't hold them to that standard.
You were
at all.
holding only yourself to that standard.
Exactly. The Bible doesn't say don't drink. It says don't get drunk.
Right. And I think some of the hard knock on the Baptist side of things is that people don't understand that I hold myself to the standard. I'm not holding you to that standard.
Exactly.
And we'll talk more about that next week when we talk about the next office, the deacon side of things.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, let you talk about that. Get off Alan for a minute.
Okay.
Maybe I'll teach that night.
It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple, but no striker.
No, what is that?
You don't hit people.
You don't get in a fight.
Can you be married to a striker? She beat the crap out of me last week.
Was it deserved?
Well, I kept trying to make her quiet.
He was debated if it was deserved or not.
Okay, again, it's running your witness and the witness of the church. So it's all that same. Not greedy. That's my granddaughter. She's talking. Not greedy. Are there any preachers that you've ever met that are greedy? Alan, do you wear a Rolex to church?
No, I wear an Apple Watch.
The
That was a
church
gift.
And the reason you wear that is because it was a
gift. The church bought it for me. They said when they wanted to buy something for me that I wouldn't buy it for myself.
And it was
I nailed it.
and there was something that you wouldn't.
I would never have bought an Apple Watch, and I don't know what I'm going to do when it breaks.
Well, we'll probably have to chip in and we'll get another one. You can thank Rolanda for that because Rolanda really had that original idea.
Oh, George came up with this smart aleck comment. Says, "A striker, you only bunt. That's I can bunt. I can't." Ha ha. That's why I called you George.
All right, and it says not covetous. Does that just mean only the other person's wife, or what does that else that mean?
I think it applies to everything.
Everything, yeah. Whatever your neighbor might have that you don't have. You think
My
it's
neighbor's
awesome.
got a new carport.
And you really like it?
I do.
But you say, you don't say, I wish I had that one. You wish I had one like it.
No, I don't even say that.
Oh, okay.
'Cause I'm way too cheap, I'll have to build one.
Have to build one.
It won't get finished.
It'll be a frame with no top.
The hard part's done.
Yeah, hard part's done. I set the posts.
Oh my
And they're
gosh.
square.
That's a
That's
story.
an
That story
inside
from
joke.
Sunday school this morning.
Hey, please don't hold that to Allen's standard there because I still have a deck with no rails, so it's all good.
Just don't fall off.
He got the hard part done.
I did. I got it. Hey, the Egyptians are right. It's level. All right. Okay. Ruler of his house. Huh. What are the worst kind of kids, Alan?
I wouldn't know.
Come
My
on,
kids
Alan.
were angels.
In case they happen to watch this one.
No. My dad was in ministry for 50 years. I think we get a bad rap. I think, honestly, I think we all tried to live up to the standard. You know, everybody expected the minister's kids to be awful. And so we just fulfilled that expectation.
I don't think minister kids are any worse than any other kids. I just think
Deacon's kids are awful.
They are.
Terrible. I tell you.
I just think the preacher's kids' mistakes are amplified.
Maybe so.
I do. I mean, you know,
Because most of them are doing what every other kid's doing that isn't a preacher's kid. Not all of them.
Well, the downside to that being a deacon's kid is you do something and he finds out about it before the end of the day.
Well,
So
you
kind of
can
kept you in check.
Well, that's
occasionally.
part of being a school teacher.
Well, that too, it amplified it.
You can ask George about the first zip line they ever put across the river. Ask him how that went.
Hey,
We'll just leave
George.
it there.
I'm guessing not well.
So, you know, I get to brag a little bit. My kids were great. They really were. I know that they made mistakes and I know they did stupid stuff. I know that they did some things they shouldn't have done. But I've tried to make it a point not to hold them to a higher standard than I did any other kid I knew. I mean, I was just as apt to get on to Zach as I was to get on to my own kids if I'd seen him doing something, or at least have a conversation.
And you had our permission to do it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't care if I had it or not.
Yeah.
It was just gonna happen. You know, it just,
Yeah.
and y'all were really, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we have been blessed with our kids.
Yes, we have.
And I look around the people that go to church with us here, and I see their kids, and I see what they're doing, and I'm going, you know what? These are some people that do a really good job at this household thing. And kids.
And please know, just because you had a struggle doesn't mean you did a bad job.
Heck, my brother was the worst.
Your brother.
Oh.
They call him the
My
kettle
goodness.
black.
Sorry.
He was awful. I mean, yeah.
I mean,
I'll tell you so.
all children presented their unique challenge in raising them.
I don't know what
Every
you're
one.
talking about. I was a golden
No,
child.
yeah, well, that's as long as your granny was around.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I had my halo from her.
So, so guide me a little bit. Children in subjection with all gravity. I'm a little bit, I don't.
Okay, so again, I don't know that Paul ever had children.
Because I was a way better parent before I had children.
Oh, all right.
I knew everything someone else's child did wrong, and also how to fix it. And then I had kids and figured out I wasn't nearly as smart as I thought I was.
Because they will make a liar out of
Oh,
you.
my gosh.
Or hypocrite.
But yeah, both.
And don't take this wrong but all children disappoint their parents.
At some
Sometime
point.
or
Yes, they
another.
do.
Yes,
I mean, some way they will. Just like we disappointed our parents. You know, we did. There's times that we did. And so you got to deal with, understanding that to some extent. I feel like when he wrote that, he's still referring the Old Testament way, spare the rod, spoil the child idea.
Well, but okay, so what that is a direct correlation to with Proverbs. Proverbs is not a promise that you will raise your kid up in the Lord and that they will not depart from it. You know, that's not a promise that's going to happen. It's a truth. And children in subjection, as you're talking about with this, that is a truth. It may not always happen, but it's a truth nonetheless.
Well, see, that's where I was going with this. What do we do? What do we do? Because there are, let's face it, human beings have brains. Some not as much as others. Human beings make choices. And some of those human beings are children. And some of those children make awful choices.
Yes.
So there could be any of half a dozen people I know sitting in this room right now that could talk about their children who became drug addicts and thieves and everything else. And I know them. They're good, godly people.
Well, Miss Jean's story.
Miss Jean's son died of a heroin overdose. My brother's son died of a heroin overdose.
Yes.
Good, godly people. Good parents. So what do I do with that?
So.
And this, I mean, does that rule them out? Does that prevent them from being?
I don't think so. But I think that you can't say they didn't make the effort, right?
Oh yeah, I mean the effort, you can see the effort.
Right. And I think he's talking about just flat out ignoring your kids, to me. That's where I'm at with this. Because some people become so wrapped up in whatever they're doing that they just become single-focused, single-minded, and don't take care of everything else.
Including the ministry. I mean, that's...
Yeah, but they could, you know, I'm doing this for God, so they excuse themselves from doing anything else. You know, and that's not what God meant. And that's not how Paul operated himself. You know, he was a minister that worked. And very few times did he take full support from the other churches. He worked as a tent maker is what many had come to the conclusion that he did, but I think that was just one of his jobs that he did. You know, but that was also his way of being immersed into the people that he was ministering to.
Right, his ministry was not just preaching and teaching.
Right, when I see my pastor going to work every day, and I go to work every day, and he still's able to make it to church, and I can make it to church, that means a lot. You know, that's a witness that nobody really talks about. All right, he has not to be a novice, okay? They're not saved last Sunday, and they're preaching the next Sunday.
When do you become not a novice?
Some never get off the mother's milk. And this is not an age thing. Age does help because you experience life, a lot more life, but I know so many older people that are still babies in their faith. So they don't need to be a novice. And the reason is the warning he gave with it. It was because of pride. Once you get a position, if you don't understand how important and the nature of that position, your pride can take over. Look at me. I'm the one that God put in charge. I'm the one that's going to do this. I'm the one that's going to lead them through all this. That's not what God's got you there for.
How many of the pastors in the mega churches are that way?
Back to where we started.
I don't think you have to go to a mega church.
Sure don't. Sure don't.
Alan, what was, when you were going to seminary, one of your statements you said to me what was the size of church that they kept telling you was a viable church where they could support you?
150. Shouldn't even bother with a church that wasn't running 150. It's not viable.
They can't they can't pay your salary if they're less than 150.
Well, if you're only there for the salary, you're in for the wrong thing.
That's what I told them.
Yeah.
But, you know, God called me to be bivocational. I get it. The first church I pastored paid me $59 a week, whether I needed it or not.
But was that also the place that had the freezer full of beef?
It is. You know, I came home one day and everybody had a key to the parsonage. They gave me a house to live in. Everybody had a key to it, and came home and went in. We'd been out, you know, bought what groceries we could buy. We went to the refrigerator and the freezer was completely full of beef that someone had butchered and brought over and packed our fridge. I told Vicki, we were sitting at a dinner table, literally crying as we ate T-bone steak. And I told her, I said, you know, we didn't eat like this when we had money. God takes care of us.
God takes care of you. Me and Barbie shake her head every day. God takes care of us. We're at the end of the month. He takes care of everything else.
Proverbs 16:19-20 says, "Better to be lowly in spirit and among the oppressed than to share plunder with the proud. Whoever gives heed to instruction prospers, and blessed is he who trusts the Lord." Wait, did I read the wrong one?
Did I say, what did I have on?
You had 19 and 20.
Yeah, you
Oh,
had-
I'm so sorry. It should be 18 and 19.
Oh, well,
I
let
was
me read.
going like,
Let's try it again.
you read the one verse last, so I was going like,
Sorry. Okay, let me try it again. All right, so
Hey,
18.
it was lightning when
But
I
it
was.
sounded good.
It sounded good. Yeah.
But wait, it was lightning when I was typing that, so I was hurrying. The live fire would go out.
Okay, verse 18.
Yeah.
Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Better to be lowly in spirit and among the oppressed than to share plunder with the proud.
Ooh, that last sentence. Than to share plunder with the proud. All great stories have pirates in it. Had the plunder. All right, maybe. So, does everything come back to your pride? Does your pride get you in trouble? Okay. If the person that's leading your church is prideful, could you see how that could cause a problem for the church? Instead of accepting the congregation that he's been given, a prideful preacher wants to bring in more people. But what kind of people do they want to bring in?
Ones that wear Rolex.
Ones that have money. Because I can reach more people, and the more people I reach, the more the more money that comes in, and da 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 da. Can you see the?
But is it even that sometimes? Is it sometimes that you have those guys that, in honesty, start out with, I'm trying to reach as many people as possible so that they hear the message, and then it transitions to not about the message. It transitions to that I'm doing this, that I have reached 15,000 people, I have whatever it may be.
Okay, but now, do you know that on Sunday that our nation is segregated more on a Sunday than any other time in the week? There's more segregation that goes on. Did you know that? You have rich churches where all the important people go. You have poor churches where all the poor people go. You have the Indian church, the black church, the Catholic church, you get Baptist church, you get all, but they're all segregated, are they not? Okay, so this is another study for a second. So when they did, this is a terrible movie, but when they did the first Planet of the Apes, okay, all of them, the costuming and stuff took hours and hours for them to put on. So what they would do at lunchtime when they would break, you had the gorillas and the chimpanzees, and you had the orangutans, and you had all of these different people that they were all different kind of people underneath. But during the day, they were masked up as a gorilla or as a chimpanzee or as an orangutan. And they found out that at lunchtime they segregated themselves. It was a complete psychological study of how that just because of the way they looked, they separated themselves from everybody else and ate with that group. That's kind of interesting. So, do you think that
The baby distracted.
it's okay? So,
I just want one of those jars and one of the fangs. So we can all dip it in the jar.
Sweet potato, I think.
Sweet potato. She's eating
So,
Gassy lady.
but here's where I'm going to come to. Would you be comfortable sitting next to a person that has $1 billion? Would you sit comfortably next to
Yeah,
them?
if they left their, wallet laying out.
Or are you comfortable sitting to a homeless person in your church pew? Do you see where I'm going? We segregate ourselves. All right. See, I got totally off track. Had an ADD second. So. All right. Have a good report and don't reflect bad on the church. I think we've covered that. But as Alan said, when you go out into the community and you ask them what they see and what they think of your church, be ready for the bad report. Understand you may not get the answer you think, but you also might find out that just by asking that may mean that they realize that you really do care about the community you're in. So, it's that way. So, any questions?
Okay, so I know this doesn't mean anything, and I try really hard not to pay attention. But Daugherty Baptist Church has 500 followers on Facebook. And there are periods of time, just kind of it fluctuates, where we have had over 1,000 people view a single service. Easter last year, I think, or year before last, that we live streamed. I think it was 1,600 views. It astounds me who will watch. I haven't looked at any of the analytics on the Sunday night stuff yet, but I will someday.
It won't be big. It's okay.
I think you'd be surprised. I really do. There's, it's new. It's not publicized. It is, and yet there are people who either they're not ranked strangers. Okay, don't get me wrong. And none of the people that watch the Facebook stuff are not. I can't say none, but
They have some connection.
There is some connection.
Yes.
There was a lady that interacted with out in Arizona who was connected to Vicky's brother, who's in El Paso, who's and all of this stuff, and it blows my mind how God takes something and spreads it out, and the right people watch the right stuff at the right time. You could look at those numbers and you could get pretty haughty about it. I could
get that pride
pretty
going.
easily, or you could look at those numbers and say, "Gosh, only 70 people watched that." Hello, there were only 50 in the room. So you have to be really careful with how you deal with that stuff. But I love that we have a reach.
We're in a unique place that we can do that. So, but all I'm saying is when I started with the little video tonight, I wanted you guys to take a look at the reasons that we need to have the right people leading your church. We have the right one leading ours. And you need to pray for him to continue his service to God, because it weighs on you after time. It is a heavy burden to carry. And sometimes we make that burden heavier than it should be, but we do make it a burden. So, and that goes for any pastor of any church. If they are doing it right, it is a burden. Alan was crushed today because he was unable to publish his sermon on time for the online views. And how many in a row did you say that was?
130, I think, is what it was.
130. And I told him, I said, you got to do just like any other player in the game, is you start the streak over again. And you take off from there. Oh, by the way, he got it published this afternoon. It's up and running right in the middle of the thunderstorm, I'm pretty sure. So, is there any other questions from anybody else? That would be a no. Hang on, somebody type it.
It was a few seconds behind. So you
Yeah, I
gotta
know.
Make sure there ain't nobody in the chat.
There we go.
It's amazing. George didn't have a comment.
George didn't have anything to say too much tonight.
He probably fell asleep. All right, next time, Timothy 3:8-14. We're going to talk about the deacons and throw them under the bus.
Is that next week, or will that be?
Yeah, that'll be 2
away?
weeks. 2 weeks.
Next week is Easter.
And again, let me publicize a second. We're going to have
Good Friday.
Good Friday, because in my mind, all I can think of was Palm Sunday.
Yeah.
That's today.
Yeah, no,
That's
that's today. We'll have Good Friday service starting at 6:30, okay, and then we'll have Sunday morning sunrise service at 7:30, and then we'll have breakfast right after sunrise service. Then we'll have an Easter egg hunt right after that, and Sunday school, and then church after that. And we will not. We will not.
Your brother, he's watching while he's at church.
Oh my gosh. And we will have we won't have Sunday evening service next Sunday, but we will start up the Sunday after that. So
No, we won't have Sunday.
that's what I said. We will not have
Oh, I thought
Sunday.
you said we will.
Play it back, Alan. We won't have Sunday evening service next Sunday, but we will have Sunday after that. So join us then. And my granddaughter, I'm fixing to hold her to all those.
For everyone to see.
Oh, yes.
And we're gonna say hello to Grandma.
Come and say.
Ready, keep coming.
Keep coming.
There you are.
Right
There you
there.
go.
Back in just a little bit. There you go.
Everybody gets to see the baby.
Say hi. I said I love
She's
you.
Oh, Randy said maybe he needed to see the shirt. The deal tonight.
Who
He
did?
said, Randy or
Yeah.
George. Maybe I needed to see him.
Yeah, she's finally after.
Well, maybe he did. I don't know.
She has lots of slobbers.
I love flowers. Come and see me. How are you? Oh my goodness. Hi, how are you? Yes, yes, yes.
The video finally cut up. You started to come up to the.
Oh, Jeff said, hi, sweetie.
Aww.
What? Oh my goodness. Oh my
Hi,
goodness.
Sugar Pop. Baby.
Hey, come say hi. Say hi. Say hi. Oh my goodness.
Do I need to go back to that shot?
Make that the caption for this week's service. Basically just going into the camera. It would be pretty funny.
Hey, she's got to have a bruise.